Look, we probably have parents and grandparents who have roadblocks when it comes to maths. Like back in the day, the chat was, I just don't have a maths brain. But we know that's not the case. Our brain is a muscle and we can teach it to become better at things. And that includes maths.
Welcome to Rainbow Skies for Teachers, the go-to show dedicated to teachers who want to make a big difference in education. Whether you're in your first few years or well into your teaching career, we are here to inspire, support, and empower you with bite-sized tips, simple strategies, and the motivation to lead an education revolution, one classroom at a time.
We're Ashley and Alicia from Rainbow Sky Creations, two Aussie teachers who love all things teaching and learning. We are here to help you thrive as you work toward making an impact in your students' lives while loving your life as a teacher.
We are here to help you bring joy, simplicity, and creativity into your classroom on the daily, because
there are rainbows ahead, my friend, and together we're unstoppable.
Let's get into today's episode.
Rainbow Sky Creations acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we record this podcast on, the Darrell and Woodjuk Noongar people. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.
Hello, welcome to Rainbow Skies for Teachers. This episode's a little bit of a different one because we actually recorded it for an audio summit that we're part of. We'll pop the link to the audio summit in the show notes. It's where a whole heap of teachers are coming together just to share little tips and tricks for back to school. It's especially for US listeners, but if you're in Australia like we are, you could definitely pick up some good little tips along the way as well. It's just aimed for the beginning of the school year. Anyway, all of that to say, we actually recorded a little session about how to create maths lessons that students love. As you know, we are huge lovers of math here. We love to create lesson ideas, resources for teachers to create those lessons for the students that really make an impact and make them think, I love math. We want to get rid of that old mentality that we don't like maths. So with all of that being said, we thought, why not share it on our podcast so our listeners can hear these great gems too? So I've got 6 elements that we're going to share today. And without further ado, we will dive on in. Hello, I am Ashley.
And I'm Alicia.
And we're here to talk to you about 6 secret ways that you can create maths lessons for your students this year that they are going to absolutely love.
We are big fans of maths. It's probably our favourite subject when it comes to all things in school. So we have come up with 6 ways to make maths lessons that your kids love. That's what we want to hear about, right?
Absolutely. And these are going to be ways that you're going to be able to adjust easily in your classroom. You're not going to pull your hair out, and it's going to be a fun time for you and your students in the classroom. So let's dive in to strategy number 1, Alicia.
We know students learn best by doing and having concrete materials available to them. And yes, I'm talking about even year 4 students, year 5, year 6 students. And it's an important step from moving students from the concrete to the abstract in maths. And we're talking the abstract is symbols, numbers, them having those concrete materials to see what 5 plus 2 looks like, to see what 5 times 5 looks like is very important on setting up those foundations. And hands-on activities are your golden ticket to get students understanding those concepts.
Yeah, hands-on activities are engaging and they're fun. And let's face it, they are 2 components that make a successful math lesson. So we are huge advocates of hands-on activities. In fact, at the end of this episode, we've got a great hands-on game that we're going to share with you that is free. All right, so let's move on to strategy number 2.
That would be differentiate your instruction. So it doesn't mean different activities for every child in your classroom. It's about catering for the different points of need among your students. So we love to break up our maths lessons into groups. And within that, you can have your groups doing different activities to cater for it or leveling up what they're doing. Tell us, Ash, what are we talking about when we say differentiation?
Well, I think differentiation is one of those words that teachers hear and they go, oh my gosh, it's just, there's so much to it. But we can differentiate in all different types of ways. We can differentiate by content, like the level of difficulty, the outcome that you want your students to achieve, the process in how they're going about it, pace, or support. And of course, we can differentiate with the resources that they're using. So there's so many different ways to differentiate. But in order to have a successful maths lesson where all of your students are feeling some kind of success, differentiation really is key.
Absolutely. So you could ask yourself a few questions about what is the learning intention? What do I want the students to achieve in this lesson? You could ask yourself, can I provide an open-ended task to cater for the diverse needs of my students? Like a favorite one of mine is doing a pre-test on fractions and selling my year 3 students, even year 4s, and going, show me what a quarter looks like. And they just can show you all the different ways or none of the ways that they can do it. So making it open-ended allows for that flexibility of students be able to showcase their learning at their capacity. And then ask yourself, does this lesson lend itself to students working in smaller ability groups, targeting a specific concept or misconception? I love this because this is something that I would take in my explicit instruction with a small group and really targeting what those groups of students need. And I know the other groups are going to be working on activities that are building on their skill level. Throw in some hands-on activities there. It's perfect.
It is. Working with a targeted group is really, in our opinion, the easiest way to differentiate for your students because you're able to really pinpoint what those specific students need when you're working with them.
Which does lend itself to the next strategy.
Yes. Okay. Which is strategy 3, explicitly teach content. You're absolutely right, Alicia. If you're working with small groups, it's so easy to explicitly teach the content to that targeted need of the student sitting in your small group. Far easier than trying to do it in front of the whole class. Now, when we say explicitly teach, we don't mean chalk and talk here. We might be explicitly teaching in small groups, like what we just mentioned, dream centers, or finding teachable moments in a lesson. So stopping everyone. Stop everyone. Let's all come and have a look at Alicia's work here. She's managed to do this. She's showing her working out this way. And you can grab those little teachable moments throughout the lesson as well. So there's lots of different ways to do it. But don't skip explicitly teaching altogether. I know that there's been a lot of fads of recent times where explicit teaching has kind of gone out the window, but we need to really show our students what is expected of them. We need to show them how they need to learn the concepts and what the concepts are in order for them to be successful.
Absolutely. And look, there are times you're going to do chalk and talk. You just don't make that your whole lesson. And what we love to do is give your kids whiteboards, make it interactive, make them participants in the chalk and talk process, because there are times where you need to sit down and explicitly teach them. Yeah, make sure you're not skipping that part. That part is critical in your students' understanding of a concept they're learning.
Now, while we're talking about whiteboards, mini whiteboards is actually the perfect tool for our 4th strategy, which is celebrating risk-taking in math. Now, why I say whiteboards are a really great tool is because students can work things out. They can have a go without it being so daunting as writing with a pen and a piece of paper. So we love whiteboards because they encourage that risk-taking. It allows kids to write something down and rub it out if they're not sure. They don't feel so much pressure. So when we're saying celebrating risk-taking, what do we mean, Alicia?
What we mean is we're giving students the chance to have a go. We are really big believers in a growth mindset, and we know there are students that have roadblocks. Look, we probably have parents and grandparents who have roadblocks when it comes to maths. Like back in the day, the chat was, I just don't have a maths brain. But we know that's not the case. Our brain is a muscle and we can teach it to become better at things. And that includes maths. So when we embrace risk taking, you might have that student who chooses to do a trickier problem they'd never done before. You might have a student who goes, do you know what? I want to give this game a go. And like Ashley was saying, whiteboards are so good for that because the students can still have it close to their chest. You don't have to have them show it to you, but then they can quickly flash it to you and then bring it back to their chest if they don't want their peers to see. It really is a much more of a safer space. And it's celebrating those mistakes. It's going, hey, we're going to make mistakes. You know, what's my favorite worst problem? You bring up a problem and you go, I did this, but I totally did it wrong. Can you guys help me solve it? And you unpack it together. And you celebrate the success in solving a problem or solving a task. So be open to mistakes. Make it part of your vernacular. You know, you're chatting about it all the time.
We love to offer our students little mantras to help them dream math. This can help them in all areas in the classroom, but things like mistakes help us learn, and I can do hard things, and I'm not there yet, but I'm going to work this out. Little mantras like that can really help them train their brains to have that growth mindset.
So celebrate those risk takers in your classroom, which moves into strategy number 5. Identify what good mathematicians do. I used to love calling my kids mathematicians,
Oh,
and you
same. Their little reactions, it's the best.
you see their little chests pop up and they'll be like, oh, I'm a mathematician. So students need to know how they can be successful in maths lessons. And yeah, there are tools that we can teach kids, right, Ash?
There are tools and there are strategies, and we need to show them, which kind of goes back to that explicitly teaching piece, but show them exactly what they need to do in order to be successful. Throughout your teaching, explain to them this is how a good mathematician would record their thinking. This is how a good mathematician solves problems. This is the sort of language mathematicians use. Good mathematicians try a range of strategies, or they go back and check their answers. I mean, we could go on and on and on, but explaining to them that that's what they are, mathematicians, and showing them what it looks like is going to set them up for so much success. And it's going to help with the growth mindset piece too. These are kind of all weaving together. And you're going to see by the end why these are the 6 strategies we have chosen to create maths lessons that your students are actually going to really love.
Yeah, I love doing think boards. I feel were so popular back in the day. I feel like they're a little bit underrated because they had a bit of a boring tag to them, but you can really make them fun and allow students to be like, your challenge is how many different ways can you solve this problem? And you see kids going, oh, you know what I mean? There's not one size fits all, it's kind of like there's so many different pathways to get to that. And I think when you're teaching students that in maths, you're teaching them that in life, that people are going to have different opinions. So I feel like it's so layered here, that concept of teaching them how to be good mathematicians and show their thinking and problem solving skills. Number 6, I feel like, is one of your favorite-ish strategies, Ash.
It is one of my favorite strategies. And it kind of links all the way back up to strategy 1, using hands-on activities, because it links in here. Engaging different learning styles where you can. Now, this is important no matter what subject you're teaching, but acknowledging the differences between individuals and catering for different learners is vital for your students to access the content that you're trying to teach. So mix up your lessons with different ways that students can complete different activities. It might be hands-on, like we spoke about at the very beginning. It might be open-ended questions, like we spoke about a little bit earlier on. But having those elements that students can, A, learn the sort of learning style that works for them, be exposed to different learning styles, and then obviously work with learning styles that suit them. We've written so many blog posts about this, particularly one about different learning styles for skip counting and different learning styles for multiplication. And it's just different ways to bring these into your classroom. So elements of visual, auditory, kinesthetic, writing, and reading, they're the 4 main different learning styles, and bringing those into your lessons.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to shy away from technology here. Like, I feel like there are some really great maths games and activities that encapsulate different learning styles. And who doesn't love a bit of tech time? So bring it into your maths lessons.
Yes. So let's recap our 6 strategies to create maths lessons that your students love.
Use hands-on activities, differentiate your instruction, explicitly teach content, celebrate mathematical risk-taking, identify what good mathematicians do, and lastly, number 6 was engage different learning styles where you can.
Now, to help you do that, we've got a free game that you're going to be able to use. This game is one of our most downloaded freebies. Teachers absolutely love it because it's hands-on. You can easily differentiate it. It's a times table game, so you can give different students different versions and they can be working on that at the same time. It works for those hands-on learners. You can easily talk about what good mathematicians do when playing this game, and kids can celebrate their risk-taking when they're playing. And you know what? Playing games is a great way to take risks because it's not so overwhelming.
Yeah, it's just a game. It's a bit of fun. And I love it that this game you can use as your math warm-up, you can use it during your explicit instruction lesson, and you can use it as a maths wrap-up. It is so versatile. So
It really is.
go grab yourself a copy.
Yes, it's called Flip It and Times. There will be a link for you to click on and you can just grab yourself a free copy. The best part is all you need is the printable and a deck of cards and maybe a couple of counters, and you are good to go.
And what we like to do on our podcast for Rainbow Skies for Teachers, we have a little saying that we like to say. How does it go, Ash?
There are rainbows ahead, my friend.
And together, we're unstoppable.
So there you have it. 6 different elements to help you make maths lessons that your students absolutely love. Don't worry. We will pop the link to that freebie, the Flip It game, in the show notes. We also have a version of this where we've got all of these 6 points written out with some examples and things. So I'll put a link to that little ebook in the show notes as well. Thank you for joining us. There are rainbows ahead, my friend, and together we're unstoppable.